Hello and welcome to RVCC Online, the digital campus of Rainier View Christian Church. My name is Mike Parejo and I'm the digital ministry pastor here at RVCC. We would really like to know that you're watching today, and we'd appreciate it if you filled out the digital connection card, which you can get using the QR code on your screen. If you're watching in our Sunday morning interactive service, the link is going to pop up in the chat. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can find the link in the description. And if you're watching this using your web browser, you can click on this button on the website to be taken to the form. When you fill out the connection card, you can let us know of any prayer requests that you might have. You can ask for more information on our kids or our student ministries. You can get connected in a small group. You can find a place to serve, and so much more. Now, if you've never filled out a Rainier View connection card at any of our campuses before, and you do so today, we would like to email you a Starbucks gift card just to say thank you for being here. We're going to be reading from the Bible during today's message, and if you don't own a Bible, I encourage you to download the YouVersion Bible app on your phone or your tablet. It's totally free, there's no in-app purchases, and if you start downloading it right now, you'll be ready and it'll be downloaded by the time we get to the biblical passage in today's message. Finally, if you're watching during our Sunday morning interactive chat service, our chat hosts are available to pray with you anytime during the service. If you click on the request prayer button, a private chat box will open up where one of us would be honored to pray with you. Hey, thanks again for being part of RVCC Online, and let's begin our worship service.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Rainier View. My name is Thomas, and we are so glad that you're joining us today. The words freedom and boundaries don't naturally go together in our minds, and yet we are the most free when we have boundaries that help us to focus. When it comes to our money, the boundary that will lead us to financial freedom is called a budget. Let's join Pastor Mike as we address the question, what is the best way to manage my money?
Hey there, welcome to RVCC Online. My name is Mike. I'm the digital ministry pastor here at Rainier View Christian Church, and we're so thankful that you are joining us. And I want to start in a little bit of a different way today, and this may be really weird since you're on a screen right now watching, but I want to ask you to close your eyes. Just close your eyes for a moment, and what I want you to do is I want you to visualize in your mind the most impressive architectural structure that you can think of, whether you've seen it in person or not, and let's try to think of something a bit more grandiose than the Tacoma Dome or something like that. But I want you to close your eyes and picture what that structure would look like today. Just picture kind of wherever you are, what would it look like, okay? You got the picture in your mind? Good. Okay, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Maybe some of you thought about the Eiffel Tower, maybe you thought of the Great Wall of China or the Taj Mahal or the Space Needle. I've got no idea what you thought of, but I'm willing to bet that nobody thought of the National Monument of Scotland. Chances are almost nobody watching this right now has even heard of the National Monument of Scotland, which is the country's memorial to the fallen soldiers and sailors from the Napoleonic Wars. Now, the plans for the National Monument of Scotland, they were based roughly on the Parthenon in Greece. And who knows, maybe when you pictured a structure in your mind, maybe you thought about the Parthenon, absolutely incredible structure. They wanted to build something similar to that, but with this massive catacomb system where they would be able to bury the fallen war heroes of their country. It was going to be like this Scottish Valhalla, and like just incredible plans, just incredible. Except it didn't end up looking like the Parthenon. It actually ended up looking like this. Yeah, this is what the National Monument of Scotland looks like today. They only got 12 of the pillars completed before they ran out of funding. Okay, it took 5 years to get that far, and it never got any further. Okay, that picture is what the National Monument of Scotland looks like today. And so instead of a Scottish Valhalla, it's now known as Scotland's Folly. Now, there are a lot of people in our world today that don't think that the Bible is relevant whatsoever for their lives, but I want you to consider the story of the National Monument of Scotland as we read the words of Jesus in Luke chapter 14. Check this out. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.'" So if the people that were in charge of the National Monument of Scotland, if they had read these words and taken them to heart, chances are they don't end up in the situation that they gone. Maybe it goes differently. Maybe instead of building something looking like the Parthenon, maybe they just built like a nice statue, like just a statue of a war hero, and that'll do good the same effect, but it'll actually be complete. Now, chances are you've never taken on a project of that magnitude, but we've all taken on maybe smaller projects in our lives where we had these great ideas, but we didn't actually have the funds to see it to completion. Maybe you've bought a project car before, and there's just this sweet ride that you've always wanted, but you could never afford it, but you can buy an old version of it, okay? And you're gonna take it home and you wanted to, kind of refurbish it and buy all the new parts, and that car is still sitting up on blocks in your yard because you just can't afford the parts. It's just not gonna be possible. Or maybe you had this idea, okay, we're gonna buy this old house, and then I've seen them flip houses on TVs on pretty much every channel. Let's buy this house and we'll remodel it and flip it and make a ton of money on it. But the house ended up being just this massive money pit, and now you're wondering, will we ever even make our money back on it? Maybe you wanted to start your own business, and you're not sure if the capital will ever come together to get it going. Maybe you just want to have enough money set aside so that you can fix the next major appliance that goes down. Now, all those things are within the realm of possibility for us. Those aren't impossible, but they're not going to happen without a plan, okay? That's otherwise known as a budget. And budget can put all sorts of weird thoughts in our heads of like, I don't think I want to do that. I don't like thinking about that. But as we talked about last week, our money and our possessions don't belong to us. They're ultimately God's things. It's God's money, it's God's stuff, and He allows us to be managers of His money. And so it doesn't matter if you have $100 or $1,000 or $100,000. It really doesn't matter, because what matters is that we manage the money He's given to us, that He entrusts us with. He wants us to manage it well. And let me make it very clear, people from all kind of tax brackets can mismanage money, okay? Like it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can easily mismanage it if you don't have a good budget, okay? And this is why a budget is not only a good idea, but it's necessary. And so the thing that we want you to walk away with remembering today is this idea that God wants you to experience financial freedom of living within a budget. Now, that statement may seem like a contradiction, like, well, how can I be financially free? How can I experience freedom if I have to live according to a budget? A budget is going to constrict what I can do with money. That's not freedom. And for a lot of us, it's stressful to think about living on a budget. And a lot of us, we just kind of want to say, like, okay, if I don't think about it, then I don't have to worry about it. Okay, I'm just going to spend money and I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to believe that the money is going to be there. That's not the kind of faith that God asks us to live out in this world. To understand how a budget brings freedom, we need to first understand what financial bondage looks like. And so I want to give you a couple of stats to kind of help you understand what that's all about. 78% of U.S. workers live paycheck to paycheck. Over 3/4 of the U.S. workers. That's incredible. In addition, almost 10% of workers making $100,000 or more live paycheck to paycheck. So even if you're thinking, okay, if I make more money, then I'll be fine. No, almost 10% of people that make over $100,000 are still living paycheck to paycheck. One more stat. The average U.S. household owes over $7,000 in revolving credit card debt. Okay, that's the average, all right? So some people have a whole lot more credit card debt. You see, most people are experiencing financial bondage. They're not living in financial freedom. And if we want to experience the freedom God wants us to have with our finances, then we would be wise to look into His Word, okay? Especially when it comes to financial advice. And as we talked about last week, that the Bible is filled with wisdom about managing money. So I want to look at one verse right now in the book of Proverbs. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So one of God's principles for money is that we have a plan and that we diligently work that plan. But not all financial plans are going to take us to financial freedom. And so today, I want us to look at 4 different plans of how we can manage our money. And 2 of them are not going to get us to where we want to go, and 2 of them will help us. So let's check it out. Okay, so the very first plan that I want to talk about is the destructive plan. And I base this plan on Proverbs 15:27. The greedy bring ruin to their households, but the one who hates bribes will live. Okay, so when you're a kid, and let's just say like maybe your grandma lived far away and she would just send you like checks or probably would just send you like a fresh $20 bill in the mail or something like that. You know, when you're a little kid, it's okay to talk to your parents and say like, hey, can we go to the store? Like, can we go to the mall? Can whatever, like, I want to go spend this. Like, you know, when I was a kid, it was like, can we go to Toys R Us? I got to buy some new Legos immediately. And when you're a kid, that's fine. That's what you do when you're a kid and you get $20 in the mail. You want to go buy what you want to buy with it right there. But this doesn't work when you enter the working world. That's not how we can do it. Living according to the destructive plan means that we put no thought into our money whatsoever. It's simply, look at all the cash that I have. I want to go buy stuff. And we operate by this mantra of, I see it, I want it, I must have it. And so money just starts going left and right, and we're just spending it, and it's just going and flowing and all this stuff, and it doesn't matter, okay? And credit cards are used as a means of like, okay, like maybe I don't want to carry this much cash, and so like I'll just spend here, and I'll spend there, and I'll spend here, and I'll spend there, and it doesn't matter. And what we see in the destructive plan is that debt gets bigger and bigger. Debt skyrockets. It gets completely out of control. If your goal is to ruin your life, then the destructive plan is for you. Now, I mean, that's ridiculous, okay? And I hope that nobody watching this right now is living this way. But there are some people that this is their reality, that I get money, and as soon as I get it, like I spend it, and it doesn't even matter if you start making more money. It doesn't even matter if you get a promotion because your spending habits are established. Now, this may be the meanest thing that I've ever said in a sermon, but if you are living according to the destructive plan, it's time to grow up, okay? You're not a kid getting $20 in the mail from your grandma anymore. We can't spend this way. It is a foolish use of money, and it's only going to cause us pain, and it's going to hurt the people around us. And so if you're living this way, it's time to live differently. Okay, so now we want to move on to the second plan of managing your money, and that's the fingers crossed plan right there, and I base this on Proverbs 21:17. Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich. Okay, so before I get into what this plan is about, I want to be super clear that having possessions, going on vacation, buying something nice, those aren't evil things. The problem comes is when we love having those things. Like, I love my stuff, I love my money, I love my possessions, and we actually start to turn those things into idols instead of simply possessions, okay? And so the fingers crossed plan is definitely better than the destructive plan because at least you have the knowledge that adults have to pay bills, okay? Like at least I know in my mind I can't just, blow my money on whatever I want, okay? And so when payday comes, like, oh, it's just beautiful, it's payday, but you know that I can't just go and spend it all like crazy. The problem is, in the fingers crossed plan, is you don't have any tools set in place to help you control where your money goes. The fingers crossed plan is nebulous. That is to say, it's vague, it lacks definition. And so what happens in the fingers crossed plan, again, payday comes, oh, it's fantastic, and whether you get the cash or a check or it goes right in a direct deposit, whatever, but it's payday, and the first thing you think about is like, okay, it's payday, like, you know what? I got bills to pay, but like, let's celebrate a little bit. Let's go out to dinner, and we go out to dinner, and I'm gonna slap down the plastic, and we're gonna take care of that. And then on my way home from dinner, I gotta remember, well, I gotta fill up the car with gas. And so again, use the plastic, and okay, gotta fill up with gas, but I'm an adult. I'm going to adult this month, and so I'm gonna make sure that, I'm gonna pay my rent. That's gonna be good to go. Okay, good. Check mark. My adulting score just went up. That's fantastic. And then I see that the hiking boots that I have wanted for months and months and months are on sale 25% off. And so, to be honest, I've got to go buy them now because it'd be financially irresponsible not to buy them. I mean, I've wanted them forever, and so I'm gonna head down and use the plastic, and I'm gonna buy the boots that I want. And then I realized, oh my gosh, the movie theaters are open. The movie that I want to see is finally hitting the big screen. And so yeah, I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to lay some plastic down there. And then after the movies come back, okay, back to adulting. Okay, I've got water bills and electricity and garbage. Okay, I'm going to make sure that all those are taken care of and paid for. And oh, that's right. It's my mom's birthday this month, and so I'm going to hit Amazon and make sure that I buy her something really, really nice. And back to adulting, I've got to make sure that I make the car payments. It's a little bit more expensive than I wanted to, but I had to get the limited edition, right? I mean, how could you not? So I'm going to make that payment and got to buy gasoline again for the ride because somehow it only gets 12 miles to the gallon. But again, it's limited, so it's pretty awesome. And then throughout the month, there's little things like costs that I don't even necessarily see because I've already set up automatic payment for Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and Disney Plus and HBO Max, and all these little things add up. And then you get to the end of the week and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just done. I'm not cooking tonight. Hey, let's order out and let's get DoorDash to bring it to us as well. It's a couple more bucks, but totally worth it. And then the credit card bill arrives. And you look at the fat stack of cash that should be in your bank account. And you look at the bill and you realize, oh no, these totals don't match up anymore. How did I get to this place? And then when it comes to savings and retirement, yeah, someday I'll save up. That's crazy. And then what happens if there's an unanticipated medical bill or that sweet ride breaks down? What do you do? What happened? Well, what happened is the fingers crossed plan. I mean, the assumption that you will have enough money to pay for all of your needs and your wants in a given month. And I'm not spending like crazy, but my spending, there's really no checks and balances system to it. And I'm just hoping that it'll all balance out at the end of the month. And if you insist on managing your money according to this plan, you will live paycheck to paycheck for the rest of your days. Okay, now if you're managing your money in one of these two ways, according to the destructive plan or the fingers crossed plan, you may want to ask yourself the question, why? Now, I don't say that to shame you because we've all been there. Okay, at some point in our lives, we've lived by one and or both of those plans. But I want to encourage you to search your heart and try to understand the reasoning why. Why am I spending money in this way? Again, we've all done it. I've done it myself. Life gets hard and I can turn to retail therapy. And you know what I want to do? I want to go and I want to check the Amazon app on my phone and I'm going to scroll through the lightning deals to see what's the best deal I can get on something today because it's easier to do that than deal with my problems. Okay? It's not healthy. Spending money to feel better is not the solution. And so now I want to take a look at some healthier ways to manage our money. Two plans that are going to help us experience the financial freedom that we want. So let's head to plan number 3. I'm just referring it to as the wise plan. And this is out of Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. So this is the plan where, okay, I've actually got a budget. I've got money earmarked for certain categories even before I start spending it. And so whether or not you have money going into direct deposit and you never actually see it, or you get paid by a check twice a month or once a month, or whatever the situation is, even before the money goes into your account, you know where the money is going to go. And so, before the first of each month, I know that a certain percentage I'm putting into savings. I want to make sure that I've got an emergency fund in case something breaks down, and so I'm good to go. I've got savings and retirement. I'm thinking about that. I've got money set aside. And for housing, I know how much it costs for my rent or my mortgage, and so that's set aside. Okay, got to be responsible. And food, on average, we spend about this much a month, so I'm going to set that aside. And utilities, on average, cost this much, so I'm going to set aside that much so I can take care of water and gas and electricity and trash and all that kind of stuff. And and for my transportation, I know how much it costs. I know what my car payment is. I know how much it costs for an average gallon of gas, for a tank. I know how many times I fill up a tank in a month, so I'm going to set that aside. I've got money for health, and so that's doctor's appointments and medicine and vitamins, things like that. Insurance for car, maybe mortgage insurance or renter's insurance, life insurance, that's ready. For my lifestyle, for clothing, for personal costs, I have an idea of what this is kind of what I have left over now that I can use on the things, and maybe I even have a little bit left over that I can use to give to other people. I can give to my favorite charity or church or whatever. But all in all, I know where my money's going. And the role of a credit card in the WISE plan is very, very different than what we've seen in the other plans, because a credit card essentially just becomes a tool that you can use, but you make sure to pay it off every single month so that there's no debt accruing for you and growing. And so a credit card essentially becomes just as valuable as a debit card, so you don't even necessarily need one in this particular plan. Plain and simple, we want to see everybody who is living by the destructive plan or the fingers crossed plan to begin living by the WISE plan and having a budget that works for you. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus, I want to talk about one fourth and final plan, and I'm just going to refer to it as God's plan, and I'm going to base this on Proverbs chapter 3. Check it out. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. So this last plan is the plan that recognizes that God's ways are better than my ways. And so when it comes to setting up my budget, I want to give to God first. He is the first one on my mind when I think about using my money. And so when that paycheck comes in, before I spend any money, I'm going to make sure that there's a percentage set aside for God. Now, within the church, people say, oh, it has to be 10%. I don't know what that would be for you right now, but we want to set that money aside to make sure that we give to God first. And then after we give to God, then same process as the WISE plan. We set aside money for savings, housing, food, utilities, etc., all the way down the line. That's a budget that we just call God's plan. If you're a follower of Jesus, we want to make sure that God is given to first through the local church. Now, the beauty of making a budget, creating a budget, and living by it is that you experience this freedom that you get to tell your money where to go to ahead of time instead of wondering where it all went after the fact. Okay, that's financial freedom. And yet, that being said, nobody goes from financial bondage to financial freedom between the paychecks. Okay, getting to financial freedom is going to take time, it's going to take discipline, it's going to take hard work, but it can be done. So financial freedom begins with a budget. We here at Rainier View, we want every single one of you to experience financial freedom. That's so important to us, and that's why we purchased a one-year membership for everybody in the church to Ramsey Plus. Okay, this is an incredible suite of tools that you can use to help create a budget and to work towards financial freedom. You're going to get access to the Financial Peace University course that you can also take here at our physical locations. You'll get the Every Dollar app, which is a really easy way to begin setting up that budget, and it's there right on your phone all the time. It's such a great plan, and it's going to take you step by step in being able to create that budgeting plan that's going to work for you and where you are right now. And you can get your Ramsey Plus membership for free. Go to rainierview.org/Ramsey. Well, why are we doing this? Why are we spending money on Ramsey Plus as a church to help you achieve financial freedom? Well, because that's what God wants for you. God wants you to experience the financial freedom of living within a budget. And that's what we want for you as well. So your next step is really to identify, okay, where am I when it comes to my personal budget? And we're going to be in probably 1,000 different places right now, but I want you to identify with one of these three areas in terms of where you are with your budget to be able to determine where you need to go with your budget. And the first place is, I don't have a budget and I actually need help setting one up. If that's where you are, that's fine. That's totally fine. If you don't have a budget, well, you're starting from ground zero, and that's great, okay? Again, using the Ramsey Plus tools, or even if you don't use Ramsey Plus, find any sort of a budgeting tool that works for you to be able to create that and get it going. Now, you may be in another category. You may be like, well, I've got a budget, I just don't use it. Okay, that's fine as well. This is a perfect time then okay, let's create a budget based on where we are right now. And you need to set a goal, and I want to have a budget set by this date. And I'd recommend having it ready, before the first of a particular month, so you can kind of start fresh at the beginning of the month, but kind of set that date, whatever it is, to say, okay, I'm going to work towards creating that budget, and I want it to start here. And the third place that you're at is, okay, I've got a budget and I'm using it. And if that's where you are, that's great. I want to encourage you to set aside a time in the next couple of weeks to sit down and look at your budget and reevaluate it, to really kind of look at where you're putting all of your money and to kind of say, okay, am I honoring God with where this money is going? And a reevaluation period is always a good thing when you're considering the money that God has entrusted to you. Financial freedom is going to begin with a budget so that you can manage your money instead of allowing it to control you. Now, after everything that we've talked about today, I know that some of you are really doubting that financial freedom is actually possible, and it's because of a really dirty four-letter word: debt. And you're sitting there and going like, okay, this all sounds great, Mike, but you don't know how much debt that I have. I don't think financial freedom is ever going to be a reality in my life. Well, I want to encourage you to join us next week, because we're going to be addressing the topic of debt as we give you a starting place to begin freeing yourself from the bondage of debt so that your legacy can be one of generosity and not unfulfilled hopes and dreams. So please join us again as we close out our series, Broke Free. Thanks for being here today. We really appreciate you watching, and we pray that you would have a blessed week.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Mike. We've got some great things going on, and we want to make sure that you're staying informed about it all. The best ways to do that is through our all church emails, by following us on Instagram and Facebook, or check in anytime at rainierview.org. Now, we have a child dedication event coming up soon. This will be taking place on Saturday, May 8th at our Parkland campus. We'll be sharing a meal together, and we'll have a time of prayer and encouragement for each child and parent. We want to partner with families to help them build faith into the lives of their kids at home. There'll be an orientation prior to the dedications, and we encourage you to sign up for one. All the information you need is at rainierview.org/events. Now, we're a church that loves to be generous. If you call this your church home, you can give by simply texting RVCC to 77977 to use our safe and secure online system. You can also give on our website or send in a check. If you're joining us for the first time today, though, please don't feel any obligation to give. We are just so glad that you're here. Now, we'll be together for just a few more minutes, and as we sing through this next song, we encourage you to take communion in your homes. This is a time we take every week to think about all that Christ did for us on the cross. Now, if you'd like more info about communion, you can get that at rvcc.online. So gather some bread and juice and take these as reminders of Jesus' body and blood. Thank you again for joining us this morning, and we hope you'll join us again next Sunday, right here or at one of our other campuses.
Walk into the room, everything changes. Darkness starts to tremble at the light that you bring. When you walk into the room, every heart starts burning. Nothing matters more than just to sit here at your feet and worship you. Stop, can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this walk into the room, sickness starts to vanish. Every hopeless situation ceases to exist. When you walk into the room, the dead begin to rise, 'cause there is resurrection life in all you do. We love you. We'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. Come and consume, God, all we are. Give you permission. Our hearts are yours. We want you. We want you. And come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are yours. We want you. We want you. And come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are